We all know in the NFL that in order to win a Super Bowl, you have got to be great. You've got to be elite at the quarterback position. Most of the time, anyway. Every so often, a guy like Nick Foles or a Trent Dilfer will come out of nowhere and become a champion. But 95% of the time, the winner of the Super Bowl is elite at quarterback. It's not so different in the NBA. To win the NBA Finals, you have got to have two superstar players on your roster. There are exceptions, of course. The Detroit Pistons come to mind. They won the championship 15 or so years ago with a roster that was full of role players. But for the most part, teams winning NBA championships have two superstar players, at least. Just look at the last decade of teams that have won the NBA Finals. The Lakers, they had Kobe and Pau Gasol. The Heat, they had the big three, D. Wade, LeBron, Chris Bosh. Golden State, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Later years, Kevin Durant. The Raptors last year, Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry. For the first time since the John Stockton, Karl Malone era, the Utah Jazz have two young superstar players on their roster. Rudy Gobert, 28 years old. Donovan Mitchell is only 23 years old. Rudy Gobert's first few years in Utah were pretty rough. But ever since Donovan Mitchell was drafted back in 2017, the Jazz have been playoff contenders every year. So you would think, with the success that they have, the relationship between the Jazz two superstar players would be great, right? Not so much. And it didn't just start earlier this year with the whole COVID thing either. The tension between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell has been slowly building for 3 years. The COVID situation just lit the spark that ignited the flame. Management in Utah is potentially caught in a predicament. Both Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are coming up on contract extensions. Mitchell, he's coming to the end of his rookie contract soon. And Rudy Gobert is going to be a free agent in 2021 if the Jazz don't sign him. And he will be eligible for the Supermax extension. Now this can pose a problem on two fronts for the Jazz. One, we don't know what the salary cap is going to look like during free agency in 2021. I would assume that fans are going to be allowed in attendance next NBA season, but we don't know at this point. And second, and more importantly, are the Jazz going to be looking at a situation where they're going to have to choose between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell? Has the situation in Salt Lake City reached a tipping point, or are they on the way to reaching a tipping point? For most people outside of Utah, the beef between Gobert and Mitchell first came to their attention back in March. A few days before the NBA was shut down due to COVID, Rudy Gobert was making light of the coronavirus in a media scrum after practice. Once his interview was done, he made it a point to touch everything on the table. Microphone, camcorders, phones of media members, whatever was there, he was touching it. You get the point. Now what happened a couple of days later? He ends up testing positive for coronavirus. It was the starting point of the NBA shutting down. It all happened in a matter of hours. Gobert tests positive. Later that night, their game against the Thunder is canceled. An hour or so later, the entire NBA season is postponed indefinitely. A few days after that, what happens? Donovan Mitchell ends up testing positive for coronavirus. Reports coming out of Utah are that he was furious with Rudy Gobert. Basically blamed him for giving him the virus. For most NBA fans, that was the first sign of tension between the two superstar players in Utah. But the tension between the two has actually been building for some time now. Rudy Gobert has been vocal about Donovan Mitchell's unwillingness to pass the ball. This actually came to a head earlier this season. Gobert had one of the most dominant performances of the season against Detroit. and he was interviewed after the game on the court. Donovan Mitchell snuck up behind him during the interview, and he was just joking around. It was in a playful manner. No big deal amongst friends, right? I mean, the guys are on the same team. Donovan Mitchell just messing around with Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert looks over at Donovan Mitchell, and he said, "Hey, why don't you pass me the damn ball on camera for the country to see?" Now, the passing issue is a little bit minor. That's something that can be corrected. Donovan Mitchell is a young player. Young players have a tendency, especially at the point guard position, they have a tendency to take on more than they can handle. They have a tendency not to trust their teammates in late game situations. But it's also a little bit of a misconception that Donovan Mitchell doesn't pass the ball to Rudy Gobert enough, or the misconception that Rudy Gobert doesn't get enough touches. I mean, Rudy Gobert did set the NBA record last season for the most dunks in a single season. He can't do that without someone passing him the ball. So it's not like he's not getting touches. However, I am sure that Quinn Snyder would like to see Donovan Mitchell pass the ball more. He's only averaging 4.2 assists a game this year, which barely cracks the top 50 across the NBA. Not great if you're a point guard, a starting point guard especially. But like I said a second ago, the passing will improve as he gets more experience at the NBA level. Michael Jordan, he was a well-known ball hog his first 5, 6, 7 years in the NBA. It wasn't until Phil Jackson opened his eyes to the fact that he has to get his teammates involved in order to win championships. That is when Jordan started getting guys like Tony Kukoc, Steve Kerr, more involved. So this is a common issue amongst young players. This isn't just new to Donovan Mitchell. I think Rudy Gobert complaining about Donovan Mitchell not passing the ball enough is a symptom. It is not the disease. That's not the root of the problem. This is just my opinion. I think the core of the issue between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell boils down to ego, and it is a one-sided problem. Think about this for a second from the perspective of Rudy Gobert. He played second fiddle in Utah to Gordon Hayward for years, his first 4 or 5 years in the league. As he is entering his prime, Gordon Hayward leaves for Boston. And the expectation was that the Jazz were going to be Rudy Gobert's team. They were going to build around him. He was going to be the face of the franchise. Now, had this been the NBA 10, 15 years ago, that probably would have been the case. But the NBA today is a guard-driven league. The Jazz, they draft Donovan Mitchell in the first round in 2017. The same year that Gordon Hayward left for Boston. And he completely took the spotlight away from Rudy Gobert. Wins the dunk contest his rookie year. Named to the all-rookie first team. Seemingly overnight, a star was born in Salt Lake City. And the Jazz became Donovan Mitchell's team instead of Rudy Gobert's team. Look, I could be completely off base here. That's just my observation, my theory of what could be going on in Utah. It does have some merit, though, if you think about it. Rudy Gobert has complained in the past about not getting enough recognition. Remember back a year or two ago when he was teary-eyed in a press conference after being snubbed for the second year in a row in the All-Star game? It's not like he hasn't been vocal about his lack of recognition. All the while, looking across the locker room at Donovan Mitchell, who is getting all the praise. Now, can the Jazz make this work? Can they become a championship contender with two star players who seemingly don't get along? The beef is supposedly over between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Supposedly. Donovan Mitchell came out recently and said that he was over the whole Rudy Gobert situation. They were boys again. But it was the first time he had mentioned anything about it in 3.5 months, ever since he was mad about the whole coronavirus situation. For 3.5 months, he was silent while allowing the media and the fans to speculate about the beef between him and Rudy Gobert. Even though both guys might be over it, built up tension over time, it just doesn't go away. Can the Jazz make it work? We've seen teams do it in the past. Shaq and Kobe were notorious for not getting along, not liking each other. They won 3 titles together. Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, they were at each other's throats in Golden State. They won titles together. There is an age-old adage in sports. Winning cures everything. But is that really true? Is that saying really true? What happened in Los Angeles? What happened in Golden State? Both of those situations. Did winning cure everything? The tension, the beef between the players tore both teams apart. Los Angeles ends up trading Shaq to Miami on the insistence of Kobe Bryant. Kevin Durant left Golden State because he wanted to be the superstar and he wanted to get away from Draymond Green. But he wanted to be the face of the franchise somewhere. And he knew that was never going to happen with Steph Curry in the Bay Area. That's the one thing that made the Bulls so special back in the 90s. It seemed like guys checked their egos at the door. Scottie Pippen, for example, he could have been the face of the franchise. He could have been the superstar on most other rosters in the NBA at that time. But he held his ego in check, even to the point where he wasn't being paid near what he was worth. He did that to continue winning titles for the betterment of the team. The difference between the Lakers and the Warriors and the Utah Jazz right now, the Jazz aren't winning titles. They're not even contending for titles. They're getting bounced in the first or second round of the playoffs every year. Both Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are saying all the right things in the media right now. The beef is over. We're both over it. We're Goombas again. We are going to find out soon. We are going to find out in Orlando in just a few short weeks if the tensions have eased. It is going to be a difficult situation playing in that bubble for a couple of months. If there are tensions between the two players, they will come out in that environment. Now back to my question from earlier. Can the Jazz make this work long term with two guys who don't get along? The answer is no. We have seen in the past what dissension between two players in the locker room can do to championship NBA teams, much less teams that aren't contending for titles. The good news for Jazz fans, though, I don't think that Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are to that point yet. I don't think they're to the point of Kobe and Shaq or Kevin Durant and Draymond Green and the Warriors. I don't think they have passed that tipping point just yet. But it's coming if things continue the way they've been the past year or two. It's going to be up to Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell to make this work. Otherwise, by the time free agency comes around in 2021, management in Utah could be looking at a situation where they are going to have to choose between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. And I think it's obvious that Donovan Mitchell would win that battle. All right, that's all for today. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for me. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Appreciate you guys that have already done so. Leave me a comment in the section below. Are there problems brewing in Utah? If Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell can't get along, will the Jazz be forced to choose between the two players? Let me know your thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. If you have any questions or a topic that you would like me to discuss, you can email me at BTLKC84@gmail.com. I'll see you guys next time.